I flew 12 hours from abroad just to see my mom. We had been planning this trip for weeks. But when I knocked on the door, a stranger answered. "I live here," she said flatly. "I don't know your mom." Confused, I called my mom right away. "Did you move?" Her response was immediate. "No, I didn't move. I'm at home, waiting for you." That sinking feeling in your gut when something is terribly wrong? It hit me the instant the door opened. Running only on airplane coffee, a squashed croissant from Charles de Gaulle, and 20 hours without sleep, I was suddenly more awake than ever. This woman stood in the doorway of my childhood home as if it truly belonged to her. No apology. No awkward smile. Not even a simple, "Sorry, you must have the wrong place." Just a plain, matter-of-fact, "I've lived here for 7 months." I blinked at her. "I think this is my mom's house." Her eyebrow lifted like I'd suggested something ridiculous. "Who's your mom?" I gave her my mother's name. Nothing changed in her expression. "I don't know her. I live here." My exhaustion turned into sarcasm. "Oh, okay. So my childhood home just magically transferred itself into your name." She only shrugged. "I've lived here for 7 months." The exact same words again, like she was playing back a recording. "No, my mom lives here," I said firmly, my voice sharpening in that way I usually save for French waiters who bring the wrong dish and pretend it's right. Her lips pressed tight. "Maybe you've got the wrong address." "No," I shot back quickly, shaking my head. "This is the right address. I grew up in this house. I know every inch of it." She let out a sigh, the kind people give when they're done humoring you. "Look, I don't know what to tell you." Then she shut the door in my face. The sound was soft, but it felt like a gunshot. I stood there with my bag in one hand and my mom's gifts in the other, staring at the white paint of the door, almost willing it to disappear and reveal her smiling behind it. But it didn't. Instead, I pulled out my phone and called her again. Hearing her voice at that moment was jarring, it sounded too normal for what I was facing. "Did you move?" I blurted. "No," she repeated, "I didn't move. I'm at home, waiting for you." My stomach twisted. I glanced back at the door. "You're at home?" "Yes." "Right now?" "Yes, of course. Where else would I be?" My brain tried to mash two opposite realities into one. Spoiler, it doesn't work. "I'm standing outside the house," I said slowly. "And you're not here." She gave a light laugh, like I was being dramatic for nothing. "Well, of course I'm here." "Aha," I muttered, staring at the closed door. "We'll circle back to that." I hung up before I said something I'd regret. Then I knocked again, this time harder. She opened the door after a pause, looking at me like I was the last person she wanted to see. "Yes, this is my mother's house," I said, keeping my voice calmer than I felt. "Why are you here?" Her grip on the door didn't loosen. "I'm renting it." That hit me like a slap. "You're renting it?" She gave a clipped nod, like she was speed dating and already moving me into the reject pile. "Who are you renting it from?" I pressed. She tilted her head, studying me. "From the landlord." "And who is that?" Her answer was firm, final. "I don't have to tell you that." The tone wasn't hostile, but it was immovable. She wasn't going to give me anything. And it was clear she had no clue who I was, or what this house meant to me. And honestly, she didn't care. I bit down on the inside of my cheek. "Right. Well, enjoy the house." I forced a smile that didn't reach my face. She shut the door again, leaving me standing on the porch with my heart thundering in my ears, staring at the brass numbers nailed above the frame. The same numbers I'd memorized as a child. The same tiny gouge in the paint by the doorbell where Mom once tried to hang a wreath that was too heavy. It was the same house, yet somehow it wasn't. This wasn't just unusual. It was wrong. My mother was supposed to be here, in her own home. But instead, a stranger who claimed to have lived there for 7 months now occupied it. And my mother, who apparently hadn't moved, was nowhere to be found. The gifts in my hands suddenly seemed absurd. Fine chocolates from a boutique in Paris, a silk scarf I thought would brighten her face. Now they just felt like props in a play I didn't understand. I turned back toward my car, my thoughts buzzing with static. Either my mother had lost her grip on reality, or something far bigger was happening, something no one had bothered to tell me. And if it was the latter, someone was about to regret assuming I'd simply shrug and hop on a plane home. If you think showing up at your mom's house and finding a stranger there is bizarre, let me tell you, I've been here before. Not at that exact doorstep, but in the same position, being told that what I know about my own life isn't real. That reality is something different than what I see with my own eyes. The first time I learned what that felt like, I was 7. That was the year my mother remarried. On her wedding day, I remember the cake, the scratchy dress, and how everyone kept insisting how lucky I was to have a father again. It sounded comforting. A dad. Even the word itself carried weight. I didn't have many memories of my real father. He died when I was 4. Just a few hazy images and the lingering scent of his aftershave, which would sometimes drift into my mind like a ghost. The man she married wasn't frightening in the obvious sense. He didn't scream or slam doors. In public, he was warm, charismatic, helpful, someone who made people laugh easily. But every so often, he'd look at me with an expression that made me feel like I was some sort of problem he wished he could erase from his life. And the worst part? My mom never seemed to notice. At first, it was just little things. Objects disappearing. Accidents happening. And somehow, without anyone outright saying it, the blame always drifted my way. He never pointed the finger directly. Instead, it came as an offhand comment, a casual remark to my mom in the kitchen while I sat in the next room. The thing about those small suggestions is, they take root. They make you start defending yourself constantly, second-guessing whether maybe, just maybe, everyone else is right about you. I questioned myself like that, until the day I realized it wasn't by chance. One afternoon, a vase shattered. I wasn't even in the room. I heard the crash from upstairs. When I ran down, he was already sweeping up the shards, shaking his head. "She's been running around all morning," I heard him tell my mom. "I wasn't even here," I blurted, my voice pitching high, the way it always did when I knew I was about to be cornered. He turned that calm, condescending look on me, the one I'd grow to despise, as if I were a child spinning lies. "You probably didn't mean to," he said smoothly. "But you really need to be more careful." And just like that, it was settled. Mom gave me her disappointed look, and I slunk back to my room, feeling smaller than ever. If that had been the only time, maybe it wouldn't have left such a scar. But it wasn't. It happened again and again. Always enough to make me look like the troublemaker. Never enough to make him look like the villain. And then the new children came. First my half-sister when I was 7. Then my half-brother 2 years later. And just like that, they had what felt like their real family, one I never truly belonged to. Not in the same way they belonged to each other. Don't get me wrong, my mom loved me. I know she did. But she loved them with a spark, a kind of excitement, that she never showed for me. Every little milestone of theirs was a celebration. With me, it was simply expected. In him, he adored them. Showered them with praise, surprised them with little gifts. With me, the best I could hope for was tolerance. The worst was when he took their side, even when I was innocent. The amusement park day is etched into my memory. It should have been perfect, cotton candy, roller coasters, everything. But while we stood in line for the log ride, my half-sister burst into tears, claiming I'd pushed her. Completely untrue, I hadn't even touched her. He crouched down, soothing her, then shot me a look that said, "Got you now." He pulled her and my brother aside, whispering things I couldn't hear, but I knew they weren't good. On the drive home, Mom was silent. Too silent. When we got back, I was told I was grounded for hurting her. No questions, no chance to explain. That night, I overheard him in the kitchen, telling my mom I was jealous of them, that it wasn't healthy. I lay in bed, frozen, heart racing. That was the first time I truly understood the power he had. Not over me, but over her. He could decide what I'd done, and she would believe him. I wasn't afraid he'd hurt me. No, I feared something worse, that he could rewrite me. That he could decide who I was, and my own mother would see his version instead of me. That kind of fear doesn't fade, even when you grow older. By my late teens, I was counting down the days until I could leave. I did fine in school, made friends, kept myself busy. But inside, I was always on edge, bracing for how things might be twisted against me. When my mom finally divorced him, I was already in my early 20s. My siblings stayed close to him, they had no reason not to. He'd been good to them. And maybe, just maybe, they believed his version of me too. Life moved quickly after that. College, jobs, then a leap across the world, to France. For the first time, I felt free of that shadow. I kept my share of the house, my portion from my dad's will, but I never thought of touching it. That was my mom's home. I wanted her to have it. We stayed in touch, calls, visits now and then. Things were fine, if not perfect. The favoritism toward my siblings never completely disappeared, but at least there was an open conflict. Then, about a year ago, I noticed something shifting. Mom seemed distracted on the phone, distant. Conversations grew shorter. I told myself she was just busy, maybe tired. We still talked, but it wasn't the same. The thing about slow distance is, you don't realize it's happening until you've drifted far away. After 2 years abroad without seeing her face to face, I decided I had to visit. I missed her. I missed home. I missed feeling like part of a family, even if I never fully was. I called her, told her I was coming. She sounded glad, said she'd be home. If I'd known what was waiting, maybe I would have braced myself. Or maybe not. Maybe I still would have walked up to that porch, gifts in hand, clinging to the story I'd always believed, that home was home, and my mother was inside. But I didn't know a thing. I was still standing on the sidewalk in front of my childhood house when I dialed her again. My fingers were cold, though the air was warm. "Hey, can you give me your address?" I tried to sound casual, as if I wasn't staring at a front door that now belonged to strangers. There was a moment of silence. "Why do you need my address?" she asked, not suspicious, just confused. "I just want to double-check I'm going to the right place," I replied. She laughed softly, as if humoring one of my odd habits. "It hasn't changed." Then she recited it, a street name across town. I stared at it on my phone. I'd never even heard of that road. "I'll be there soon," I said quickly, hanging up before she could question me further. I ordered an Uber. The driver kept quiet the entire ride, which was fine by me. As we crossed deeper into the city, the scenery grew more rundown, cracked sidewalks, pawn shops, corner stores with barred windows. The closer we got, the heavier the knot in my stomach became. Her building was a tall, gray block, its lobby lights flickering, tile floors chipped and worn. I climbed the stairs instead of taking the elevator. Each landing carried the faint smell of fried food mixed with something older, harder to name. When she opened the door, my rehearsed words vanished. She looked smaller than I remembered, standing inside a cramped studio, just enough space for a bed, a table, and 2 mismatched chairs. A single hot plate on the counter served as her kitchen. "What is this place?" The question slipped out before I could catch it. She tilted her head. "This is my apartment." "Why?" "You told me to live here." My stomach dropped. "Why would you think that?" Her brow furrowed, as if I had asked why the sky was blue. "You told me. You asked your brother and sister to handle it. You said we had to rent out the house." The floor seemed to tilt beneath me. "No, I didn't. I didn't even know you moved." Her voice sharpened, just slightly. "Of course, you knew. You told me in your messages." I froze. "What messages?" She crossed to the little table, picked up her phone and handed it to me. WhatsApp was open. My face, my name, but not my number. The messages were all short and stiff, stripped of warmth, stripped of me. It's better if they manage the rental. Don't worry about the details. It's already arranged. This isn't me, I said. She frowned, struggling to make sense of it. What do you mean? That's your picture. It's not my account. I've never written any of this. She sank into a chair, still staring. Then who set up WhatsApp for you? I asked carefully. Your brother and sister. Last year, when I couldn't figure it out, they fixed it for me. They told me this was your account, that you wanted them to take care of everything. And you just believe that? The words came out sharper than I intended. Her eyes flashed. Why wouldn't I? They were here, helping. They said you didn't want to discuss it with me. They said you'd be upset if we talked about it over the phone, that you'd already decided. I swallowed hard. I never said that. Not once. She studied me in silence. So, you didn't ask them to rent the house? No. Her shoulders sagged. I don't know what to believe anymore. The phone lay on the table between us like a silent witness. I picked it up and scrolled through the chat. The idea of renting the house hadn't come as a blunt order. It seeped in slowly, small suggestions, then repeated nudges, until it sounded like everything was already settled. I set the phone down. Mom, these aren't my words. I would never move you out without talking to you first. I wouldn't do this. Her lips trembled, her voice breaking. All this time, I thought you, she trailed off, eyes dropping to the floor. I really believed they were on my side. That you'd changed. Changed how? By stopping caring, she whispered. That you didn't want me in the house anymore. I shook my head firmly. No. Never. She let out a long, slow breath, like air seeping from a balloon. If it wasn't you, then, she let her words trail off, but the names hung between us, unsaid yet loud. Her phone buzzed on the table. A WhatsApp notification lit up from the same fake version of me. Life in France is so costly. I hope you understand. We both stared at the screen, my skin crawling. Don't reply, I told her. She gave a small nod, and together we sat there, watching the three little dots appear and fade away. The trouble with thinking you've uncovered the whole truth is, you almost never have. I thought I had it figured out, the fake WhatsApp account, the forged consent, the shady rental. Enough to make anyone's blood boil. But I was wrong. There was more, worse, in fact. I just didn't know it yet. At that moment, I was sitting beside my mother in a lawyer's office that smelled faintly of old paper and burnt coffee. The lawyer wore a calm, practiced smile, the kind that said he'd seen families torn apart before, and this was nothing unusual, just another Tuesday. He slid a photocopy across the table. That's your signature, isn't it? I didn't even need to touch it. No. Not even close. He nodded, like he'd expected exactly that answer. That's good. Because this is attached to the tenant's lease, the authorization to rent out the property. I lifted the page and studied the shaky imitation of my handwriting. Unbelievable. They didn't even bother to make it look real. I've seen ransom notes written neater than this. Beside me, my mother shifted in her chair, silent, her hands clasped tightly in her lap as if holding on hard enough might make this nightmare disappear. The lawyer cleared his throat. The account receiving the rent payments, it's in your sister's name. That's our starting point. That was enough to light the fuse. We had leverage now, the kind that could unravel someone in court, or in a whispered confrontation that left them no choice but to fold. Forgery is not a word anyone wants tied to their name. We didn't waste time. 2 days later, my mother and I were standing in my sister's kitchen. She leaned against the counter, arms folded, while my brother sat at the table pretending to scroll through his phone. I placed the lease copy on the counter between us. Care to explain this? My sister barely glanced at it before shrugging. We were handling things for Mom. She didn't need all that space. That's not the issue, I said. The issue is why my name is on this without me ever agreeing to it. My brother finally glanced up. We figured you wouldn't care. You don't even live here anymore. Oh, right, I shot back, because moving away somehow cancels ownership. That's written in the Constitution, isn't it? Nobody laughed. My mom stepped forward. You're going to return the rent money. Every penny. My sister's lips twitched. It's not that simple. Why not? I pressed. We don't have it, my brother admitted. The room froze. What do you mean, you don't have it? He hesitated just long enough for me to know something was about to unravel. We gave it to Dad. All the color drained from my mother's face. What? He needed it, my sister blurted out. His business collapsed. He's drowning in debt. We were helping him. I laughed, sharp and bitter. Let me see if I've got this right. You faked my signature, pretended to be me, forced Mom out of her home, rented it to strangers, all so you could rescue the man who spent my entire childhood making sure I felt like a guest in my own house? Neither of them could meet my eyes. My mom's voice trembled. You lied to me for months. I thought you were shielding me from her, she pointed at me, but you were shielding him. My sister lifted her chin, as though confessing to some noble cause. He's our father. We couldn't just let him go under. You didn't just let him go under, I said. You pushed our mother overboard to build him a lifeboat. The rest of the exchange was short and brutal. I laid it all out, proof of the forgery, proof of the rent payments, proof they'd used the property without consent. I repeated exactly what the lawyer told me, we could take it to court or to the police. They chose a third path, repay every cent. Since the money was gone, it meant monthly installments straight from their own pockets until my mother was reimbursed in full, plus damages. The lease was canceled that week. The tenant, rightfully furious, moved out without penalty. By the end of the month, Mom was back in the house, her house, our house. She started reconnecting with old friends, inviting them over like nothing had happened. But something had. She looked lighter, freer. And when she looked at me, it was different too, like she finally saw me without anyone else's voice clouding her view. Not long after, I flew back to France. Life there felt the same, but I didn't. A few weeks later, my laptop pinged with a Zoom call. Mom's face filled the screen. She was in the kitchen, sunlight pouring through the big window, her friends laughing in the background. You're smiling, I said. I have reasons to, she answered. We talked for an hour, about nothing, about everything. And the whole time, I kept thinking how close we'd come to losing it all, the house, the truth, each other. Did I push too hard, or not hard enough?